There's nothing more rewarding than starting your own thing. It really isn't. And I mean, and it's scary as hell. Like, it is really scary. And there are going to be times where you're sitting there and you're staring at your balance sheet and you're like, dang.
Welcome to Still City Growth. I'm your host, Bill Ildenfritz. Each week, we'll explore the passions, expertise, and experiences of business owners and founders in the greater Pittsburgh area. Still City Growth is proudly sponsored by Murphy Business of Pittsburgh, committed to providing exceptional services to meet all your business needs. Let's dive in. Very excited today to talk to my next guest. He is an entrepreneur with two key passions, law and AI. For over 20 years, he's been a practicing attorney with vast experience in patent law. He's previously founded two companies, one for patent consulting and the other for providing AI solutions for attorneys. Currently, he's the partner and chair of intellectual property at Jordon Voytek. Curt Wadsworth, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you, Bill?
Doing fantastic today. How about yourself?
Great.
Good. Very good. Very good. Well, thanks for being on the show. We always start with this number one question. Are you ready?
I am.
All right. What is the number one most important strategy for growing your business?
In my mind, it's protect your brand, but that's coming more from the IP world than, but yeah, protect your brand, I would say.
Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? I agree with you.
Well, so there are lots of rules and all that sort of thing for using trademarks, but the big thing is being consistent. And so that when people see that name, they know to come to you. And whether that's, your actual name or a name you're using, a fake name, a business name, anything like that, you want to make sure you protect that and use it consistently. And that will definitely, in my opinion, help your business grow.
I agree with you. Actually, definitely really, really important. I know you have a love for AI also. So tell me a little bit about that. What's your, just in general, I know this is a big question, but what's going on in AI as a business? What should we look for? Just tell me whatever about AI.
So I'll just give you a little bit of history on me and AI. So, I started an AI company back in 2017 doing patent searching. And a lot of that built from frustration of trying to find the things I'm looking for, right? Because if you start looking at the number of patents there are in the world, it is millions and billions. And then you start adding in academic literature and things like that, and you have a huge amount of information that you have to be able to sift through and find, the needle in the haystack, as it were. And what we found is that using AI, and I think people are continuing to understand this even more and more as we go by, it's a lot easier to kind of consolidate a huge amount of information and identify what's really important to you. So yeah, that's what really got me into AI. And I think just from a research perspective, that's what a lot of people are seeing now, right? So here's a good example. I saw an article on CBS this morning about cannabis use, right? So I looked up the actual publication. I asked ChatGPT to identify some of the weaknesses in their arguments, and it gave me 3 or 4 different things. So then when I went through and started looking at it, for the most part, I agreed, that the data was a little skewed here and there. They're probably, making the headline a bit bigger than it needs to be. And, it's just kind of an entry point into things we should be looking at, and not necessarily, if you take a gummy tomorrow, you may have a heart attack sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. How do you think business-wise? Because I think that's really interesting what you just said. How can we use that in business?
Well, I think business people are using it a lot, whether or not they're saying they are, but for that sort of thing, right? Because I mean, if you think of the average business, there's information flying around you all the time, no matter what you're doing, right? I mean, I don't care if you're running a little tailor shop. There are other tailor shops out there that are doing different things. Fashions are changing, things are moving, right? And keeping tabs on those things is a lot easier when you have a machine that can look at all the articles published in the last month, identify the things that are important, and summarize them for you. So that then you can take a quick look at that and say, okay, these are the things that are important. I may read that entire article. I might not, depends. or, these aren't super important, so I can put that off to the side. So it allows you to focus on the things that are really important to you. And then when you move past just kind of, looking at the overall marketplace, I mean, you can look at your own business, right? And identify the things that are selling well versus the things that aren't, a lot easier. Get through some of those financial data more quickly. So you can really start focusing on the important parts, finding the issues that need to be resolved more quickly, and then work towards making those resolved or resolving those issues.
What are some of the things you're going to worry about or be careful of?
It does make things up from time to time. So the way they develop these models, typically the goal is to give you an answer, whether it knows the answer or not. So if it doesn't know the answer, it's going to make something up. So you got to be careful about that, especially when you're kind of pushing things. So one of the things I do, just kind of pro tip, I guess, is I'll tell it, give me articles supporting your position, right? And it'll give you a nice list of things usually. And sometimes those are good and sometimes those are bad. But that gives you a good idea of what is made up and what's not, right? Because if it's taking the information from a particular article that it's citing, and you read that article or even just kind of skim it and realize that, yeah, no, that's not really what it's saying, then, it's kind of made things up or just didn't really understand. I mean, I kind of look at it like, I don't know, maybe a high school student at this point, right? Where it's going to be super sure that it knows the answer. But when you really start drilling down, there are a lot of things it doesn't get.
I like the way you put that. How about business owner? I agree with you. There are a lot of business owners that are using it, but I will tell you, some of my business owners are not. And some are older, not that's good or bad, but they're 60 plus or whatever. What are maybe some things you can say that can help them, but are simple and kind of like a step-by-step of how you would recommend they use it?
So a couple of easy ways to use AI, in my opinion, from a business owner perspective, are things like creating posts for social media. So, I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're creating a post for social media, what it'll do is rearrange the words a little bit and put it into the format that all of the marketing people tell you to do. So I do that all the time. Like I'll write a description. For example, I put a blog post up today on my Nerd Lawyer site, but and I needed a LinkedIn description of this thing, right? So I wrote it out and then I gave it to ChatGTP and it shot back effectively the same thing, just reworded a little bit different formatting, added an icon here or there to draw attention, like all of that sort of thing. And it just makes it easier. It's more eye catching. And I have noticed that when I do that or when I don't do that, I get fewer impressions. So it's doing something that the algorithm at LinkedIn and Facebook like. So it's a good way to get out there on the internet. The other thing I do a lot of is using it to make images. So I'm a horrible artist, but I get these ideas in my head. I'm like, that would be really neat, right? So if you can write it out, and another, I guess, pro tip is ask your LLM to write the prompt for the thing that you are describing. So describe it in your best words, write a prompt describing this thing, and then execute that prompt. And it usually comes out way better than it does if you just put the prompts in there.
I played a game one time, and my daughter and a couple of her friends, Lily, were scared to death, I think, for a week. So I think my drawing of my cat or something was horrendous. So I've learned not to draw at all. But when I scare, a 10-year-old, like I think, I better stop drawing for sure.
Hey, let's get into something I can do, right?
Yes, definitely. But I also agree about the social media. That's exactly what I do. And it is amazing. You put a post in, they reword it for you, and then they keep asking you, oh, you want a LinkedIn post? You want a LinkedIn reel? You want an Instagram reel? It's a great tool. And I agree with you. My impressions went up when I used it as well. So I think that is a great pro tip for business owners.
Awesome.
Yeah. Is there any other pro tips on that sense that you think of, top of your head?
That's a good question. For most, if you're just tiptoeing into LLM use, I think those are a good place to start. And the thing that I've noticed is that once you get a couple of people or once you start using it, you'll start using it more because you'll start to see that it makes things easier. It's bringing you information. That's more relevant and interesting for whatever you're doing. So yeah. But I use it for all sorts of things, from translations to, compiling data, international data on specific things I'm interested in or things that I'm working on for clients and that sort of thing. So
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. What made you kind of go into law?
that is also a good question. I kind of fell backwards into my entire career. Like, I have no idea. I got into law through biology, effectively. So I went to Pitt for graduate school and got a PhD in biochemistry. At the time, it was kind of the early 2000s, and I was not really interested in doing work in academia. And that's tended to be where the program that I was in placed people. So I started looking for other things to do. What ended up happening is I took kind of a year off and just did some other things that were completely outside of science. I realized that I wanted to get back into science. And then I started trying to find a job. What I ended up doing was networking with a lot of people I had gone to school with or ran into at conferences and all that sort of thing. And one of my friends actually introduced me to Ray Miller, who at the time was at um, Pepper Hamilton, and he was looking for a patent agent. So in the patent world, you have patent attorneys who have gone to law school and mostly prosecute patents and other things like that. But then you also have patent agents, which haven't gone to law school, but are still licensed to practice in front of the USPTO. So it's much more limited. So I started there, and then I went to law school while I was working at the firm. But basically, he told me if I could pass the patent bar, he would hire me, and I passed the patent bar, and he hired me, and the rest, I suppose, is history. So,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. What's one challenge our listener community can help you solve? Are you looking for anything?
I am always looking for clients. So if they have IP issues, they should give me a call.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Hey, I'll tell you what, I'll just ask that question now. If that's the case, what's the best way to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is typically by email, and I'm sure you'll post it on there, but I have a couple of emails. Curt@nerdlawyer.ai is easy. I also have Curtis@JordonVoytek.com. Jordon Voytek's the firm I work for. So,
Yep. Yep. We'll circle back with that a little bit too. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years?
well, that's a good question. Hopefully things are going well. I think,
Yeah.
to be honest, the first part of this year has been kind of rough. So I still work with a lot of startups in the biotech space, and the biotech space is getting decimated right now just because there's not any government funding coming in, and a lot of investors are kind of sitting on the sidelines to wait to see what happens. So it's not easy. Um, Hopefully things start to open up again and we start moving forward, and I have a good client list, a bunch of people that are super happy, and lots of business owners who are making lots of money because of the hard work I put in.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit, the tech world. What you said, it's hard for sure. What advice do you have for these owners right now?
Buckle up. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, the thing to do is start cutting costs as soon as you can. I mean, I know some people that they're still struggling, but they're doing a little bit better because they kind of saw what was coming around the corner back in the end of last year and started cutting off some of the things that are just not returning on the investment, right? So I do the same thing, right? I have a bunch of services that I've used over time, and every now and again I'll get an email, hey, you just paid for another year subscription for this thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never used this thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
finding those things and cutting them off, so you're not just wasting a bunch of money on things you're not using. um it, that's probably the best thing I can think of. I mean,
Yeah.
eventually things will turn around a little bit. Um, you just kind of got to wait it out. So at least that's
Yeah.
the way I look at it. So
Yeah. No, I agree. How about other industries? I mean, other industries in Pittsburgh, you think they're thriving? What's your thoughts on other, say, industries in Pittsburgh?
I definitely think Pittsburgh has a lot going for it right now, particularly in the AI space. And that's well, I think a lot of it has to do with Carnegie Mellon, obviously. I mean, we have a huge kind of brain trust just sitting in the middle of the city. And I think that's starting to finally spark, and things are starting to move forward. Like we saw Duolingo is giant now, right? I can't think of the name of the biotech company, but there was just another biotech company that had $1 billion valuation recently, and a couple of robotics companies. I think Gecko Robotics also has a $1 billion valuation right now. So, I mean, these are all effectively homegrown companies. And I mean, I remember talking to the guys at Gecko back when they were kind of working in their garage sort of thing. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that sort of thing still happens here, which is pretty amazing. And I'm seeing a little bit well, there is a bit more capital coming in, I think, investment wise. That has been one of the bigger issues in Pittsburgh, I think, is just the lack of kind of investment coming into the city, but that's starting to increase. People are not really looking down on it as much as they used to. Like, I know just from, spending 20 years working in biotech, one of the things that used to happen all the time is if you had a biotech company that got a big investment, typically they were moving to Boston or California. And that's that. And I think now more people are okay with kind of settling in Pittsburgh. And to be perfectly honest, it makes more sense to build your company here because real estate's cheaper. I mean, it's easier to get space. You have Pitt and CMU and Duquesne and other universities that are spinning out these incredibly talented people. I mean, if you can grab a couple of those or a couple of those people, get a little bit of investment money, you're on your way, or you should be on your way.
Yeah, I agree with you about Pittsburgh. But I also agree in the past, everybody left. So that's good. They're staying here more.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
And I think we have great resources and things like that for sure. So that's definitely good.
Yeah. One of my favorite signs ever. I was in San Francisco for a meeting several years ago and I saw a Duolingo sign that was talking about how great it is in Pittsburgh. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Right.
That is awesome. That is awesome for sure. Take me back in time. Little Curt, did you know you would always be running a business and, lawyer and PhD? What was your thoughts?
No. The first time I walked into the Mellon building to go to work at Pepper Hamilton, I was like, yeah, I never thought I would do this. Like, I honestly, my entire goal, basically, since I was probably a sophomore in high school, was to do science research, right? So I figured I would be holed up in some lab somewhere, mixing things and, typing on a computer and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I never, ever thought I would be here. But I got to be honest, it has definitely been an adventure. So, and I have learned a lot. So I think that's the thing that I really like more than anything in the world is probably just learning things. And about being an IP has been great because I've got to talk to some of the smartest and most talented people in the world in like biotech and chemistry and that sort of thing. Like people are in Inventors Hall of Fame that had I not been in the position I was in would have never, ever talked to me. Right. So you get to learn from these people who are really the best at what they do. And I find that incredibly exciting. And I mean, just the creativity of some of the business owners that I've worked with is incredible. One of my favorite, I don't know if you know Subtle Beauty.
Yeah.
Makeup. Well, basically they started selling the container for the makeup, but I know Rachel very well. And the first time I saw this idea, I was like, wow, that's kind of a good idea, right? Because I'm married, I have a wife. I know what her makeup drawer looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very organized and compact. And I was like, that's a really good solution. And she's really now getting a lot of movement. And I mean, things are going really well. She was working with Bethany Frankel back in December and things like that. Another good Pittsburgh story is Dissolves, I think. So it's my buddy Jared. He created a film that's totally biodegradable and edible and has no flavor out of all natural ingredients, right? And his goal was to be able to encapsulate protein powder because when he made his protein shakes in the morning, he got powder all over the place. And he's like, I just want something I can drop into the thing, shake up, and good to go. And I think now he's working with Coke and or one of the big soft drink companies with on that. So it's amazing. I mean, you just have a problem, you come up with a creative solution, and then you share it with the rest of the world, and amazing things happen. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I was gonna ask you, any other good stories you want to share? Because like I think you do come across a lot of companies that are really good and unique.
Yeah, that's a good question. I could probably talk all day about this. I'll just give you one more though.
Yeah.
One of my other favorite people in Pittsburgh is Jim Gibbs at Meter Feeder. Just an amazing person to talk to, and he has the greatest backstory of anybody I've ever met. Like, he was a beat boy, so he used to do a lot of break dancing. He met his wife while studying Muay Thai in Thailand. Like, interesting person. But the first time I met him, he gave me his little pitch on Meter Feeder, and I was just like, yeah, man, I totally agree. Like, I don't like paying for parking. So here's a way we can just stop your car, start paying for parking, get back in, stop paying for parking. I mean, it seems simple. It's not, but they figured it out. It's a great story. And I think that company that's going to be another one that's great.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually met him. I work with Beam Collaborative in Pittsburgh, and I met with him, and he was telling me a story. You're right, exactly. I hear business ideas all day long, every day, and it actually stopped me. I remember exactly where I was. I was kind of like walking down my downstairs, kind of walking through it, and I actually stopped. I'm like, that's brilliant. Like, why hasn't someone thought of like that's actually really brilliant idea? So I agree. He will definitely go places. So let me ask you this, kind of going back to what your very first you said about brand. If I am a business owner and I'm kind of starting to develop things and stuff like that, when should I seek someone like you out to, protect my brand and those kind of things?
So generally, as soon as you launch a company, you should start looking at whether or not, even before, you should be able to look at kind of trademark issues, potential trademark issues. If I use this name, am I going to be infringing somebody else? Because the flip side of protecting your brand is that somebody else is out there protecting their brand. And if you start infringing on what they're doing, they're going to ask you to stop, basically.
Yeah.
And if you get to a point where you're really starting to generate some revenue and things are starting to really roll, the last thing you want to hear is you have to stop using that business name. So I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, that's a great name, but you should probably just check. Like, go to the trademark website, do a quick search just to make sure nobody's using it. And you can do the same thing at the Secretary of State website, where you can do a business name. And that's just things that are registered. But yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Just make sure.
Yeah. What other things you got to worry about, like with your brand, your whole brand?
Well, the other thing is, once you have that established and you realize that you can start using that, I don't know anybody that's not on the internet now. So it's kind of expanded how trademarks work. So trademarks used to be local, right? So if you had a tire shop or whatever, and you called it tire shop, you could call it tire shop. And the only way you would have any issue is if somebody down the street opened tire shop too, right? Now, if you have
Yeah.
tire shop, you're on the internet and everybody in the world has access effectively to your website. So now you're dealing with interstate and international trademark issues. So the other side of that is, once you start to get established, you have to start monitoring and make sure that you're stopping people as they continue to use those marks. One of the so I gave some bad advice, and I'll be straight with it. So my buddy owns Barefoot Forge, and we were talking. This is probably 5 or 6 years ago, and he's like, "Do you think I should get a trademark from Barefoot Forge?" And I'm thinking to myself, who in their right mind is going to create Barefoot Forge again? Like, it's crazy. And I mean, he's a great guy. Don't get me wrong, but he literally is a blacksmith, and he forges things while wearing flip-flops. And it's one of those things where you're just like, that doesn't seem like a great idea, but he's been doing it for a long time, and that's just how he likes to do it. So he is the Barefoot Forge, right? And it's crazy. Like, so probably 3, 4 years ago, he's like, there's another Barefoot Forge. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Right? So it turns out that there was. So we had to go out and register the mark and all that sort of thing. And the people that were using it were, completely nice about it and stopped and, all that sort of thing. But it's easier for everybody if you just monitor that. So now, I mean, that's what he does, like once a week or once a month. I'm sorry, probably. He'll go around and just look for other barefoot forges. And now he's got a big following on Instagram. So people message him and just say, hey, I ran into this barefoot forge website and it's not you. So, we go by and, generally everybody's super nice. Yeah, I was just trying to start up. I was looking for a unique name. And I'm like, well, this one's not really.
Yeah.
But it's that sort of thing that you got to kind of stay on top of.
Right. That's interesting though. Like you said, you thought it would never happen. Look, now there's many that are popping up.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, every now and again, you get the kind of bad player who's like, yeah, I'm just trying to steal your market share. But for the most part, it's just innocent mistakes. At least I like to think it is.
Yeah. No, I agree. So you call yourself a nerd lawyer. Why is that?
I was at a conference one time and I was just talking to somebody and I'm like, yeah, I'm just a big old nerd lawyer. Because we were just, talking about how I liked learning things and working with scientists and all that sort of thing. And I don't know. When I moved so I have an office on Western Avenue in Pittsburgh, which is an older part of the city. It's where all the big industrialists used to live. So there are big mansions and all that sort of thing. And down the street it used to say Ye Old Sandwich Shop. So when I first moved here, I created a sign that said Ye Old Nerd Lawyer and stuck it on on the wall. And it just kind of grew from there. So then when I was kind of looking to rebrand a couple of years ago, because I made a horrible branding mistake, I named my company 310 Consulting. So THREE10 Consulting, which has to do with a specific curve in a protein structure that I was like, oh, this is super awesome. Nobody will ever use this. The problem is no one can spell it right because it's THREE10. And I'm like, yeah, it was a huge mistake. So I spent half of the first year that I was in business explaining how to spell my email address. Nerd lawyer, on the other hand, easy. All right.
Yeah, exactly. But tell me a little bit about Jordon Voytek. What all do you guys do? I'm a little familiar with them, but what all do you guys do? What do you specialize in?
So Jordon Voytek started as a boutique M&A firm. So just doing M&A deals. And we do I'd say probably 30 deals a year, which is a good size for a very small group. So we have about 10, 12 people on the team right now. So I've actually been working with them for a while, doing due diligence on anything that had IP involved in it and a few things here and there outside of that. But I joined the firm officially in October, just because the clients we were looking for needed more IP advice, and it just made more sense to kind of bring everything together from that side of things. So now it's basically a full-scale corporate law firm. So we have people that do everything from HR compliance to real estate to all of the corporate documentation, corporate governance, IP, all of it. So it's really grown. And honestly, the thing I like about the firm is that everybody there is super talented and super well trained. So like Michael Voytek was at Lord & Day, one of the big white shoe firms in New York City for a long time. And I forget where Jacqueline was before, but they're all big firms that you'll know the name when you hear them. And it's just people that got kind of tired of working in the big firm environment and wanted to work, more closely with their colleagues and less of the competition stuff that goes on inside big firms, but people that really know what they're doing and really want to drive value and, just want to do good work. And it's great. And plus everybody's super down to earth, though, which I also think is incredibly important.
No, I agree with you. I met Jacqueline a few times and she definitely is very down to earth and very, very smart for sure. So I can definitely give a shout out to her. She's incredible in what she does. So I knew her from her previous firm. And when she said she was starting her firm, I was really happy for her. So I'm glad it's doing really, really well for sure.
Yeah, things are working out great. So
yeah, it's good. If you can go back in time and meet yourself the day you founded one of your companies, what advice would you give yourself?
It's all about your partners. So Dorothy AI was the original company that I founded. And what ended up happening is the team that we built started out pretty good. And then things started to slip a little bit. And as things started to slip a little bit, we got kind of interrupted with COVID. So that caused a lot of frustration with the investors. And it became this thing. And then there were just too many egos in the room. And then, of course, in order to try and salvage or, improve things, I brought in another ego, which was a horrible idea. So, I mean, you have to be prepared for the worst. And I'm just saying that as both a business owner and a lawyer, because that's basically my job, is trying to figure out what the worst thing can happen is and how are we going to fix it before it happens. But yeah, and just really find good people to work with.
No, I agree with you. What advice would you give to new entrepreneurs? Somebody who's looking, no matter if it's AI or something else, just new entrepreneurs, what advice would you give them?
Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing more rewarding than starting your own thing. It really isn't. And I mean, and it's scary as hell. Like, it is really scary. And there are going to be times where you're sitting there and you're staring at your balance sheet and you're like, dang.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope there's still some bread in that dumpster down the street, but it's one of those things. It's worth it. Just keep your head down and keep moving and you'll be okay.
When because it's always, lawyers are always, we'll call them scary for lack of a better word, but scary, when to engage them, all that kind of stuff. So when, as a new entrepreneur, you should engage an attorney.
That's another thing I would do early on. And I'm not just saying that as a lawyer, but there are a lot of legal aspects of setting up your own business and running things. And getting the corporate governance right can be one of the things that's very, very important. You know what I mean? Even if you're just a single member LLC, if you start to bring somebody else on, you want to make sure you know what's happening, how things are broken up, and things are the way you want them. Because if there are any question marks out there, it's going to come and bite you at some point or other. So find somebody that you like and trust, and then figure out, how to do pay arrangements and fee arrangements and things like that. But I would bring somebody on early. And don't trust ChatGPT for legal questions. It gets pretty close most of the time, but it's one of those things that language is very weird. So it misinterprets a lot of law. So just be very, very cautious. And if you have questions, find somebody who can answer them with some expertise.
No, I agree with you. I tell my clients as a business broker, even if I'm not the one, develop that relationship, find traits, see somebody you're comfortable with, and those kind of things. What kind of traits should I look for in a lawyer if I'm a business owner?
Somebody you can talk to. I have had good relationships with most of my clients. There have been a couple I didn't, and those are it's like it just doesn't work for either of us. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to give you the right answer when I don't understand the question you're asking. And if you're not happy with my answer, then we're just frustrated for no reason. I mean, you need to be able to communicate with them on the same level, basically, and just say, okay, I know it's scary that I'm a lawyer, but I'm not scary. I'm just a dude. So
no, I think it's great advice because, again, just kind of using me as a business broker, sometimes I gotta say your baby's ugly, with sell price, or I gotta say certain things. And so even if it's not me, I agree. I truly mean this. You got to find a broker you really trust in. And to me, because I deal with lawyers all the time with, mergers and acquisitions, find a lawyer you can trust because he may tell you some good things, but some bad things. You got to have that open relationship for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's important. It's very, very important. So definitely. So what, I see Star Wars behind you, but what do you do outside of work? What do you like doing outside of work?
I do lots of things. So
yeah.
I have lots of hobbies. I like to make things generally.
Yeah.
One of the things so I bought a 1985 Vanagon like 2 or 3 years ago that I have been kind of slowly bringing back to life. It's now in relatively good shape, I'd say. So runs really well, gets me where it needs to go, all that sort of thing. So I spend a lot of time working on that. I also started sewing recently, which came out of the Vanagon because I wanted to replace the seats, but I need something, a little history, I guess, of the 1985 Volkswagen Vanagon Weekender. It came with corduroy seats, right? And the issue with the corduroy is it all dissolved basically. So when I got my van, the back seat was in relatively good shape, but as soon as you touched it, it basically just ripped in whatever directions it could. But I want to reuse that corduroy to keep that kind of piece of history alive. So finding somebody to do that was super expensive. So I was like, you know what I should do? I'm just going to get a sewing machine and figure it out. So I got a sewing machine and started figuring it out. And now I'm like making shirts and stuff like that too. It's just an interesting, I don't know. I like how fabric becomes this, like, it's this flat kind of wavy thing that you then make into shapes. And it's just cool. I don't know. And I never ever thought I would have done that, but I do a lot of metalwork and that sort of thing too. So a little bit of everything, and gardening. Yeah.
That keeps you busy. That's good. That's good to have a lot of variety.
Yeah.
When you mentioned Jim Gibbs earlier, him and I bonded a little bit because I do jujitsu and he, of course, do Muay Thai. So we kind of bonded a little bit on the martial arts for sure. But yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that stuff too. So
it's really good. It's really good. Hey, I did forget to ask one thing. What is, say, for you first, and then we'll ask about your firm. What's an ideal client? What if I'm a business and what's your ideal client that should pick up the telephone and call you?
Basically anybody that has any sort of IP legal issues, which is basically everybody. So
yeah,
I know, I mean, my ideal client is everybody, basically. I mean, as long as you want to work towards building your business and making your IP airtight, then we're a good match.
Okay.
And I'm very pragmatic and I think friendly. So I think most of the time I get along with my clients super well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're very friendly for sure. How about in general? What about your firm? Any like ideal clients for your firm?
That's the same thing. We kind of work in the middle market. So, you know, businesses between 1.5 and 5 million, typically. Sometimes higher than that, sometimes lower than that, but, you know, kind of anywhere in between. And that's one of the things I really like about the firm. Everybody's super friendly. Everybody's super pragmatic. So, you know, and if you don't necessarily get along with one person, there's probably somebody else you can work with that you'll get along with. So
yeah, that's really good. Very, very good. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I really enjoyed talking to you and getting to know you and getting to know about the firm. So thank you so much, sir.
Oh, thank you. It's been a great pleasure.
Yeah. I want to thank the audience. If you learned something today or laughed, please tell somebody about the podcast. Again, Curt, thanks again so much. This has been another exciting episode of Steel City Growth. See you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Steel City Growth. Thanks for joining us. For show notes and more, visit steelcitygrowth.live. Steel City Growth is proudly sponsored by Murphy Business of Pittsburgh, offering expert guidance in buying, selling, and valuing businesses to help you achieve your goals. Until next time.